With the news, my name is Nelson Zulu. Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya has announced that Zambia has for the third day not recorded any new COVID-19 case. And government has released a sum of 5.64 billion kwacha to finance various developmental and public service delivery programs. One more COVID-19 patient has been discharged and declared recovered from the pandemic, bringing the total number of recovered and discharged coronavirus patients in Zambia to 3. And Zambia has for the third day now not recorded any new coronavirus case, leaving the total number of confirmed cases at 39 with 1 death. Announcing the development during the 16th COVID-19 update, Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya says no positive case has been recorded from 56 tests done in the last 24 hours, hence leaving those positive cases in admission at 2 on the Copperbelt and 34 in Lusaka. And Dr. Chilufya has however stated that despite the statistics looking promising and encouraging, it is no time for the country to let its guard down and relax. He has further announced that Zambia has received additional reagents and sample collection swabs and devices from the African Center for Disease Control, which has increased the country's testing capacity, which will also see an increase in testing for contacts. The minister has further announced that an additional team of medical personnel have been dispatched to Chipata-Chanida border to help heighten surveillance following the cases of the coronavirus recorded in the neighboring Malawi.
The Zambia National Public Health Institute conducted a total of 56 tests in the last 24 hours, and there were no new positive cases. Therefore, the total number of cases remains to be 39 with 1 death. A total so far of 965 tests has been done. Today, we would also like to announce that one more patient has posted a second negative test to COVID-19 and has been discharged home. That brings the total number of patients who were admitted to the isolation facility with positive status and now have attained 2 negative test status and are asymptomatic to 3. All the patients that are remaining under our care, 2 on the Copperbelt, 34 in Lusaka, remain to be stable and are being looked after by our technical staff. 5,968 persons classified as high risk due to travel history remain under our careful watch and are interacting with our surveillance on a daily basis. And a total of 1,544 persons have completed the 14-day quarantine period and have been discharged from the mandatory quarantine period.
The minister has further announced that government has come up with a new mechanism to ensure that there is minimum disruption of movement of trucks carrying essential goods through the borders. The minister has since announced that the mechanism will see truck drivers being screened, escorted to deliver their goods and later quarantined for 14 days until they are certified negative and safe from the virus. Dr. Chilufya says 125 truck drivers who came in from Livingstone have since been quarantined and are being monitored. Dr. Chilufya has since declared the new residence at the University of Zambia Great East Road as a public quarantine facility for truck drivers coming through the borders especially.
Truck drivers who are being admitted to the country are being screened at the border, and those who are found to be asymptomatic, yes, they're being entered into our tracking records and are being escorted into points where they're delivering their goods and thereafter being taken into mandatory quarantine places. And so far, we have received 125 trucks from Livingstone, and the drivers have been offloading and are now quarantined in a facility of isolation. In exercise of the powers contained in the Public Health Act, Cap 295 of the laws of Zambia, and statutory instrument number 22 of 2020, I, as Minister of Health, have declared and designated the new residence at the University of Zambia Great East Road campus as a public quarantine facility where we are now quarantining some of these essential workers in the name of drivers bringing in essential commodities into the country. These have been quarantined following their arrival under escort by Ministry of Home Affairs from Livingstone. This is part of government strategy for minimizing importation of COVID-19 from COVID-19 high-risk jurisdictions. I wish to assure the university community that the area of quarantine remains barricaded with a secure entry and exit points, and we've put in all the necessary measures to avoid infection transmission and to enhance infection prevention control measures.
Government has released a sum of 5.64 billion kwacha to finance various developmental and public service delivery programs. Ministry of Finance spokesperson Chilesha Kandeta says of this amount, 1.07 billion kwacha went towards both domestic and external debt service, while 2.2 billion kwacha was allocated to the public service wage bill. Mr. Kandeta says 1.1 billion kwacha was released for transfers, subsidies and social benefits, 819.2 million kwacha on financing various government projects, programs and general operations, and 437.6 million kwacha went to developmental programs such as roads, rural electrification, among others. According to a statement issued to QTV News, Mr. Kandeta says that the 1.07 billion kwacha released for both domestic and external debt service is in line with the government's fiscal sustainability and debt reduction implementation strategy. He says that the Treasury released 500 million kwacha towards dismantling outstanding pension dues. Mr. Kandeta says ministries, provinces and other public service controlling agencies received 89 million kwacha for liquidation of outstanding liabilities related to consumption of goods and services. The Ministry of Finance spokesperson says in the month under review, a sum of 104.7 million kwacha was also released for the purchases of drugs in public health institutions and the fight against the COVID-19. Mr. Kandeta says cooperating partners released 193.3 million kwacha for donor-supported programs under various ministries, provinces and other public service controlling agencies. And the Treasury further released 609 million kwacha toward transfers, towards transfers and subsidies. Out of this amount, 146.3 million went towards support for operations of grant-aided institutions. Meanwhile, Mr. Kandeta says government has released 59.6 million kwacha, of which the Food Reserve Agency received 28 million kwacha for grant purchases under the Strategic Food Reserve for grain purchases under the Strategic Food Reserve Program, while 21.6 million kwacha went towards the 2019-2020 Farmer Support Program, FISIP, and the Food Security Pack Program received 10 million kwacha. Republican President Edgar Lungu has expressed delight that Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya has been appointed to sit as a medical expert in the coordinating committee of the African Union's response to COVID-19, comprised of 10 out of 55 African Union member states. President Lungu is pleased that Zambia has been selected to sit on a coordinating committee of the African Union's response to COVID-19. The head of state is further delighted that Zambia's strategic intervention to curb the COVID-19 pandemic is being recognized, pointing out that the gesture is an opportunity for Zambia to share her best practices with African Union member states. The Coordinating Committee of the African Union's response to COVID-19 is part of a holistic strategy to combat the pandemic. President Lungu has recognized initiatives adopted by Bureau, which includes the ratification of a joint continental strategy on COVID-19 and the creation of an African task force on the coronavirus. Action Aid Zambia Country Director Nalucha Ziva says it is impossible for the country to meet the Global United Nations target of ending poverty by 2030 because resources meant to achieve the goal continue being diverted to debt servicing. Mrs. Ziva has told QTV News in an interview that the diversion of poverty alleviation resources to debt servicing has put a strain on delivery of social services such as health, education and agriculture, to name a few sectors. Mrs. Ziva has therefore appealed to government through Finance Minister Dr. Walyangandu to consider restructuring of the loans that Zambia owes multinational lenders. The Action Aid Zambia Country Director is however bothered that the Zambian government is undertaking the diversion of resources from the social sector to international debt servicing in a very secretive manner. Mrs. Ziva says it is prudent for the Zambian government to come out in the open so that a number of mine firms in the country can be brought to a roundtable meeting to help in restructuring the debts.
Going by our recent analysis in terms of our country performance in as far as meeting the sustainable development goals by 2030, we are a bit worried in the sense that we have noted that the largest share of our national budget is now going to debt servicing, and with that it is really putting a strain on delivery of social service sectors such as health, education, among others, and it's our appeal to government to try and look at restructuring. And also we read through certain private media that government has begun putting in place measures to restructure the loans that Zambia have. However, what we find it difficult is that it seems to be undertaken in a very secretive manner. It would be prudent for government to come out in the open so that a number of country minds in the country can be put together to help government in restructuring, because at the end of the day we are all feeling the brunt of the huge debt servicing that our country is currently undergoing. We have seen the performance of our currency to the major currencies has been weakening even before the COVID-19 kicked in as far as from last year, and it's continuing to weaken, and we are hoping that measures will be put in place to try and help the country get back on track in as far as meeting the deliverables in the 7th National Development Plan, but as well as the Sustainable Development Goals.
The Zambia Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport has advised government through Transport and Communications Minister Matoto Kafoya that it would be a safer executive decision by President Edgar Lungu to suspend flights into the country as a most effective means to halt a possible outbreak of a new strain of the COVID-19. Last month, President Edgar Lungu ordered the closure of gyms, bars, casinos, nightclubs, as well as suspending all international flights except those landing and departing from the main airport in the capital Lusaka, where screenings are able to be properly managed. ZCILT President Zinda Basoko is proposing that government should just leave cargo transport with proper surveillance systems, as passenger aircraft is a platform on which the COVID-19 can easily be imported into Zambia. And Mr. Soko has noted the need to introduce disembarking points for international road freight transportations entering the land-linked Zambia. He says there should be total surveillance of goods that are being imported and transiting through Zambia using international road freight transportation. Meanwhile, Mr. Soko has commended Capital Bus proprietor Ishmael Kankara for taking a very bold and proactive step mitigating the spread of the deadly coronavirus that has recorded 1,203,485 infections, 247,001 recoveries, and 64,784 deaths globally. Though Zambia has recorded 39 cases, out of which 3 are recovered and 1 death, Mr. Soko emphasized on the need for other operators in the transport sector to emulate Mr. Kankara.
Of course, there is a lot of freights or goods, you may call it, coming from points of its origin to destination as Zambia. And us being a land-linked countries, you have realized that most of these borders have been closed, but also there is this freight coming in. And I think as ZCU, what we are looking at is definitely, even the freight that is coming, it's coming from various countries. There is need for a disembarking point of this particular freight where there should be total surveillance of these goods coming in, because part of the characteristics of this virus is that it can survive on various materials like paper, in this case cardbox, or in whatever form for up to a period. And you see, we just need a spray system, like urgently, immediately, to be able to spray at first point of contact with the country this particular freight before it is distributed into its various consumers. When we look also at the water transport, you may be aware that we are part of the Great Lakes region, and we have people actually who use this water transport coming into Zambia. So all these surveillance systems should be able to cover at least issues to do with the rail transport, because this rail transport also comes from other neighboring countries, in this case like Tanzania. We have to look at various surveillance systems in terms of what is coming in by road. We have to look at various systems, what is coming in by water, both passenger and freight. We also need to relook at the surveillance systems for the people that are coming from these affected areas, the so-called epicenters in these various countries.
The National Union for Small-Scale Farmers of Zambia, NUSFAS, is urging the Zambian government through the Agriculture Minister, Michael Katambo, to consider to page the price of a 50 kg bag of maize to 150 kwacha during the 2019-2020 farming season. As Zambia awaits announcement of the maize price of grain, NUSFAS Acting Director Noosemo Konde has told QTV News in an interview in Lusaka that the union is not expecting less than a 130 kwacha price of a 50 kg bag of maize. Mr. Simukonde says that the price range of 130 to 150 kwacha will be more economically appropriate for 2019-2020 harvest year, owing to the teething challenges that farmers experienced this farming season. The organization acting director is concerned that prices of agricultural imports have not been on a lower side, stressing that farmers spent more money purchasing fertilizer and seeds, which continue to be distributed late. Mr. Simukonde states that the cost of production has really gone up, thus a government should consider these factors when announcing a commensurate maize purchase, which for maize purchase price for the 2019-2020 farming season.
The figure of 135 to 150, let me say so, will be more appropriate in this year. Looking at the challenges that the farmers have gone through, because the price of this, the imports hasn't been on the lower side. Farmers were buying fertilizer as much as 350 kwacha per 50 kg. So if we are to calculate the cost of production, that has really gone up. We should not expect farmers to sell their crop in the range that I've given, between 130 to 145 kwacha. That would be the most appropriate price, considering the kind of investment that the farmers would have spent on their production.
The opposition UPND Nkema Member of Parliament Kapelwa Mbangweta has questioned the motive behind the ruling Patriotic Front's call on the ECZ to postpone all by-elections scheduled to take place in the near future till the country is declared COVID-19 free. Mr. Mbangweta has wondered why the party did not call for the postponement of the Nangula Ward by-election in Limulunga district of Western Province, which its candidate Tabo Kayando won with 868 votes, while UPND candidate Wasamunu Yamboto earned 341 votes. Mr. Mbangweta has told QTV News in an interview in Lusaka that the ruling party should be serious in its dealings, especially on issues to do with the electoral system, as a consistent approach must always be taken, not one based on a partisan line. Mr. Mbangweta was responding to PF Secretary General Davis Mwila, who called on the ECZ chairperson Justice Esau Chulu to postpone all future by-elections in order to safeguard the lives of Zambians and curtail possible transmission of the virus amid the COVID-19 pandemic. And Mr. Mbangweta says the Nangula Ward by-election has exposed how moribund the Electoral Commission of Zambia is, as it did not conduct the poll in a transparent manner. Meanwhile, Mr. Mbangweta has alleged that civil servants in the Western Province were actively involved in politics instead of delivering development to the people of Zambia, regardless of their political preferences.
30 countries in this world did postpone elections because of the coronavirus. And it was very intriguing when I was driving to come here. I've heard on the ZNBC radio news that the PF Secretary General has indicated that the PF has requested ECZ that for the future general elections which are going to be held by elections, they ought to be postponed. Now, if ECZ are going to do that, it shows, first of all, the contempt with which they hold the people in Western Province, and secondly, how moribund they are. Because even in this particular by-election which has finished, we raised those concerns. At least I raised those concerns. And it also shows the incompetence and the lack of sight and the seriousness by this PF government. Because these by-elections which have just finished, I think they take us to about 36, 37 by-elections since 2016. And then even the by-elections which now the Secretary General for PF is instigating that it should be postponed, they are arising out of the buying of councillors by the PF, again in Western Province, this time in Narikwanda. They've just bought 2 councillors there. And surely, Western Province is a place which is the least developed province in this country.
Ministry of Labour Commissioner Chanda Kazia has warned against employers exploiting and abusing their workers in the name of being connected to senior government or ruling party officials. And Mr. Kazia has urged workers across the country not to fear reporting abusive and exploitative employers to the Labour Office just because they are connected to senior government officials in the country. The Ministry of Labour Permanent Secretary says workers should not be scared to expose exploitative bosses to the Labour Office, whether they claim to have connections or not. He has assured government's commitment to closing down or suspending businesses for those firms that abrogate the laws and exploit their workers. Mr. Kazia says the Labour Office has, during the first quarter of the year, suspended about 15 firms, among them being Avic International and United Quarries, for abrogating the said labour laws.
I know that the first part of the year we had almost 10, 15 being closed. Now, when we don't close, we suspend business. Because when we suspend operations, then there is a notice for compliance. You are given the time to comply. When you comply, then they come and lift the suspension. So you remember, for instance, we had the suspended operations at United Quarries until they had complied with all the things that we had said they should. Then we went ahead and then other things kicked in. So every time there is a closure, Avic was one of those. You remember, we closed that, we suspended operations at Avic, they corrected things, we went back to the inspected and lifted the suspension. So we will continue doing that. But one of the things that we want to urge the members and the people of this country, we have only this one country to do. Let us not allow ourselves to be abused in the name of people pretending to have connections which don't exist. That is not correct. And I say it. And I say it time and again. It is not correct. When a person is trying to break the law using connections, he's lying. Just expose him, bring us to us, we shall expose that person, we shall ensure that that is done. But usually what we have is complaints that are never reported. At times you watch on social media, no, we are suffering here. Have you reported? We find people have not reported that.
The National Association for Medium and Small-Scale Contractors has advised its members and other small-scale contractors across the country to consider demobilizing as a way of staying safe in the wake of the COVID-19 outbreak. Association General Secretary Danny Simumba says there is need for the contractors to also abide by the directives and measures put in place by government aimed at abating the further spread of the coronavirus, which includes staying at home. Mr. Simumba has acknowledged that demobilizing will affect the project timelines and also the cash flow for the contractors, but it is more important to stay healthy and preserve life during this time when there is an outbreak of the coronavirus. He notes that demobilizing will be a safe way of adhering to the measures that have been put in place by government, as well as protecting the health and lives of the workers. Mr. Simumba has further encouraged the contractors with the capacity to donate towards the fight against the COVID-19 without hesitation.
I also want to take this opportunity to urge contractors to at least demobilize for now and follow instructions as issued by the Minister of Health so that we protect our workers from this virus, the coronavirus COVID-19. This is time we need to work hand in hand with government and ensure that our employees, ourselves, the community where we operate in are safe by ensuring that we put in preventive measures as we wind up our business. So I would urge that we demobilize for now and observe the situation and remobilize when the situation gets to normal. I know it will have a negative impact on the business of contractors because their cash flow will be affected because they will not make any money as they will be out of sight. But again, health is more important than the business. So we don't need to lose lives through this pandemic. Ensure that we adhere to the measures put in place so that we can support government. For those contractors who may have something to contribute to the fight against this pandemic, I think we urge you to support government in its effort to fight the virus so that we can all stay safe.
The Secondary School Teachers Union of Zambia, SESTUS, has called for concerted efforts between teachers and parents that will ensure that pupils in examination classes continue receiving lessons. SESTUS General Secretary Sitibekiso Wamuyua has commended schools and teachers who have made an initiative to create online studies and learning groups where pupils are receiving documents and study materials which can help them keep up amidst the closure of schools. Ms. Wamuyua, however, notes that such an initiative needs support from the parents who have to ensure that they get talk time and bundles for their children to help them access the study lessons and materials, as well as communicate effectively with their teachers and friends. He states that the teachers who are offering online studies are not receiving any funding from the schools, but it is their own sacrifice and initiative, therefore the need for parents to also effectively do their part.
I know certain schools have put some measures in place to try and mitigate this negative impact. The e-learning in some schools is running on. I've seen a lot of groups being formed, learning groups, study groups, and they're sharing documents. They're answering questions. The teachers are responding and giving guidance. This must be encouraged, and the parents must ensure that their pupils, their children are supported. They must be supported. I know it's a cost, which one cannot avoid. We must provide the money for our children to buy the bundles, to buy the airtime, because without that, they will not be able to interact with their colleagues. As for us as teachers, I think we know that it is a cost which we are going to bear. Maybe it is our sacrifice. So people should be able to understand that, yes, even when we are talking about e-learning, the teachers themselves do not receive any extra money to communicate, to buy the bundles. They get their own money, and that is the sacrifice which we happily do, of course. We are making this contribution for the good of our learners and for the good of the country. So we need to support each other. The parents need to support the pupils, and at the same time to support the teachers. The teachers will need to support the other learners. So all of us need to get involved.
The Cleaners Association of Zambia, CAZ, has cautioned its 18,600 members in the country to ensure that they are safe as they conduct domestic and commercial chores in the wake of the devastating global outbreak of COVID-19. CAZ President Lawrence Makumbi says the association does not want to compromise a single cleaner working in the front line in hospitals to contract the coronavirus regardless of a member's geographical location. With a countrywide membership in Central, Copperbelt, Eastern, Luapula, Lusaka, Muchinga, Northern, Northwestern, Southern and Western provinces, Mr. Makumbi has told QTV News that there is need for cleaners to ensure that they are safe as they carry out their jobs. The CAZ president is encouraging members to ensure that they demand for personal protective equipment from their employers as they clean clinics and hospitals countrywide. Mr. Makumbi has told QTV News in Lusaka that there is need for cleaners to ensure that they are safe as they carry out their hospitality jobs.
The Cleaning Association of Zambia wishes to urge all cleaners, all the 18,600 cleaners in Zambia. We urge you all to make sure that you are safe in the times that you are carrying out your duties in the hospitals and in all public places. We have heard that doctors are now getting sick. Chemists and these physicians are getting sick. The nurses are getting sick of this coronavirus. We do not want any single cleaner working in the front line in these hospitals and all public places to get sick. Hence, we are telling you that there is no job that is so important that you cannot do it safely. Make sure that you are safe as you carry out these jobs. If it's not safe, do not do the job. Do the job when you are given the correct PPE, personal protective equipment, to carry out the duties or to clean for the people that are having this coronavirus. Do not stigmatize, but ensure that you carry out your duties diligently whilst making sure that you are protected 100% from this virus. We don't want any cleaner to get sick of this coronavirus. Timely warning: there is no job that is more important than doing it safely.
The Evangelical Youth Alliance Executive Director Moses Lungu has urged the government to consider effectively engaging church leaders to help in the fight against the COVID-19. Reverend Lungu feels that church leaders have currently been declined or sidelined and are only being dictated to during this period, as can be seen through the closure of the churches, a situation implying that the fight against COVID-19 is being done by threats and confrontations. Reverend Lungu notes that church leaders are like traditional leaders as they are influential to the community, and hence engaging them can greatly help in raising awareness and sensitization on the COVID-19 among members of the public. He states that the COVID-19 pandemic should be fought spiritually, prudently and professionally, and therefore church leaders are key in disseminating the right and proper information to their congregants using various platforms while observing SI 21 and 22.
But this information is not being disseminated to the people. What people are receiving are threats and confrontation. I don't think we can win the battle in such a manner. Let the government engage the religious leaders who can efficiently and effectively disseminate information that is required to the people so that they can appreciate the whole aspect of the lockdown, confining ourselves to homes, and why that should happen, And it's only the church that can reach out even to those that are on the street and accommodate them. I don't think that the government has any facilities where, even orphanages, where they're going to take the people who are on the street. The church have got the buildings. And once the church is taken on board, they are given the basic training. They can actually be of help in one way or the other, unlike just telling us to shut up and then disperse. This is not going to help our nation. But this information...
The Professional Teachers Union of Zambia Protus General Secretary Kango Msenga has called for a total lockdown as most effective means of combating the global outbreak of COVID-19. Mr. Msenga is worried that once a total lockdown is not enforced by the Zambian government, once schools will be opened, pupils, students, teachers and families will remain susceptible to contracting the virus. Mr. Msenga has told QTV News in an interview in Lusaka that due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, the curriculum at all levels beyond exam classes has been disturbed, with pupils, students and teachers confronted with a backlog of work. The Professional Teachers Union of Zambia Secretary General has expressed worry as to when the 2020 examinations will be written following the closure of schools and the lack of a definite eradication timeframe on which to end the global outbreak of COVID-19.
The position of the union certainly is to have a total lockdown so that we determine how we can deal with this situation. I think the earlier we do that, the better we are going to serve the learning calendar this year. You must be aware too well that at the moment people are moving freely, our pupils are moving freely, our teachers are moving freely, and the outcome might be so atrocious per se. So we urge government to move in and immediately enforce a total lockdown to save lives, even to preserve the strength of the education curriculum, which we have already lost due to some days of closing schools. I think we are in a dilemma, but we urge our members countrywide. We also encourage the school management to stay put so that we resolve this issue together. I think this is a national issue which do not need a lot of politics, but we just need to deal with this amicably so that we get back to the drawing board and we get back to the teaching of the curriculum so that we are not left behind.
And finally, the Opposition United Party for National Development youths have called on the ruling Patriotic Front, PF, to stop politicizing the COVID-19 virus. UPND National Youth in charge of resource mobilization, Khalid Chomba, says it is regrettable to see the ruling Patriotic Front, Sunday Chanda, politicizing the gesture by its leader, Hakainde Hichilema. Mr. Chanda has told QTV News that there is no need for the ruling party to start politicking this issue, which has left thousands of people dead.
My name's Chomba Khaled. I'm the UPND National Youth Chair in charge of resource mobilization. Natafa kulanda kupale basande Chanda. Walanda to President SYHH, he is not following the right channel to fight this COVID. Imwe Sunday Chanda. I think the best advice in Gampela, stick to your lane. You are a PF. You are a PF member. You feed from PF. PF buys you soap. PF does everything for you, for your house. The government, through Wakampyongo, the Honorable Minister, has approved and allowed President HH to do his donations. Nanga mwamaka mafumia kwisa. That's how you know the PF, I don't know what to say. The PF, we can't believe whatever you say. We can't. Just stick to your lane. And us as UPND, we've never failed before. We can face you head on. We can fight you politically if that's what we want to do. We've seen what has happened to Kufialo Kumbia. Want to value for, go to China, go to Italy. Who is happy with that situation? Do you want that situation to come to Zambia now? Now a man of principle, umuntu wakwatamano, has put up his resources to help the poor Zambians in the compounds. Abantu apusuke, imwe fionsema politics. Mune kwata kwa mano Asante Chanda. Amano, and I want to recommend our president. I want to commend him for what he's done. Keep it up. Twara wamba wonse, ngafama youths venu. Even as in our own individual capacities, to reconquer for leaders for it. So, Asante Chanda imwe, not fionsema politics. I want to evaluate about the baron for Ukali. Hero muntu aya frisha abapina imweno mbati shan kwaten kwamano.
And UPND Kasama Information Publicity Secretary Teresa Mwila has urged Mr. Chanda to join Mr. Hichilema in sensitizing members of the public on how dangerous this virus is. Ms. Mwila has urged Mr. Chanda to tone down. And UPND National Youth Secretary Trevor Mwinde has called on other political parties to emulate what Mr. Hichilema has done.
I would urge you to sit back and try to do something to help us to improve our economy, because Icharo Church touched the window at the moment. Abantu bala chula, talk about other people in our society, people with the street vendors, people who are making 10 kwacha just to feed their entire family. Let's say if we've got 10 people and they're a family and someone is making 10 kwacha just to feed those people, and then yet you just want to take advantage of the situation, to say, no, let me take advantage of this situation because at least I'm going to talk about HH. What has HH done to you? He doesn't have money. You also have money. Just like HH has money, you also have money. So make use of that money that you have to help the poor, to help the people who cannot afford to buy those things that we need to fight this COVID-19. I will appreciate if you just try to tone down Mr. Sunday Chanda.
We want to believe that this message has reached you and has reached the people that rally behind you. Because if at all you think that you can throw us in the pack of wolves, we want to tell you that we are amphibic human beings. We shall come out leading the same pack of wolves that which you throw us to. If you think that you are painting the leadership of the UPND to be black, otherwise you are building the name and the image of our political party UPND. As youths from the UPND, we have gathered here because we see there is a public health concern which needs our community intervention. And that's the only way that which we can contribute to this, is by speaking out and educating the masses of the Zambian people across the country, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of political affiliation, irregardless of religious affiliation.
I would urge you.
And finally, in sports news, the National Olympic Committee of Zambia, NOCZ President Alfred Foloko has welcomed the cancellation of the mass participation race for the 2020 race because of the coronavirus outbreak. The Tokyo Marathon, one of the 6 world marathon majors, was anticipating another large field of 38,000 runners, making it Japan's largest road race. The 2020 Olympics were scheduled to begin in July. But Mr. Foloko says that the cancellation is a blessing in disguise, as it will help local participants to prepare fully. He has told QTV News in an interview that the postponement gives chance to other federations to qualify more athletes to ensure that they prepare adequately. Mr. Foloko, who is also Zambia Judo Association President, has urged the National Sports Council and the Ministry of Sports to ensure that they work with both local federations and international federations to see how many federations are yet to qualify. He is of the view that this will help the committee to mobilize more resources. Mr. Foloko has, however, encouraged athletes not to relax but to continue training at home until this virus is contained.
For now, I'm urging the already qualified athletes to remain focused. Discipline is the catchword here. Let them remain disciplined. Let them follow the technical instructions. Not to relax, because I know some may say, let me relax because 2021 is very far from here. So instructions have already been given to our technical commission, our medical commission, so that they monitor their nutrition aspect and technical aspect, so that they are not worn out before the games. So we will strictly follow the instructions and the guidelines of the International Olympic Committee and international federations. This will be a well collaborative approach that we'll take. It's a robust actually engagement that we'll have with the national federations and our commissions to ensure that these qualified athletes prepare well. In the same vein, I encourage those that are yet to qualify to take this window seriously and ensure that we qualify to Tokyo. It will still be called Tokyo 2020, even if you will be going there in 2021. So let's qualify for this Tokyo 2020 in the midst of this pandemic. To all the Olympic family, stay home, stay safe. Let's protect ourselves as we protect our loved ones.
All right, so that's it from our news desk. It's bye-bye for now and keep watching.